Hello, everybody. So recently, I have seen a lot of people leave Christianity and disassociate themselves from Christianity, and these are very fervent Christians that are very devout Christians, and they seem to be walking away from Christianity. And today, I'm going to talk about it. Once again, I'm going to try to overlay this video with some drone footage that I caught last year of a corn harvest here locally. So let's get right into it. So, as I said, recently I have seen some very fervent Christians leaving Christianity, try to emulate Jesus, as their namesake, of Christianity, and they believe that they should try to mimic his way of doing things, and they're actually leaving Christianity and disassociating themselves from that. Why is that? Well, I think that many people have spoken up about their exit from Christendom. However, the church seems to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear towards those speaking out against it. And this is normally, if you actually ask them what the reasons are, is because that the teachings of Christianity is normally to them considered divisive, militant, and generally hateful teachings and beliefs. You don't have to look any further than folks like Greg Locke, for example. His teachings are some of the most hateful teachings that I have ever seen. They have nothing to do with personal growth. They will not help you grow as a person. They will not help you grow spiritually. They are completely and totally focused on the bludgeoning of other people. It holds absolutely no power. His teachings embody the very evil he so vehemently speaks against. I see Christians flocking to this man, and it's absolutely sickening. Those speaking out against such things, such as Greg Locke and these types of teachings, are often considered troublemakers. Many begin their journeys asking honest questions, and they're thinking that clergy will have deep and meaningful answers for them. The doctrine of respecting elders and shepherds of the flock often get thrown in to assert authority and to demand blind obedience. When the clergy consistently fail to answer questions on the most difficult of things, such as the origins of evil and how God's evil can somehow be considered good and love, many find themselves at a difficult place. The answers of God's ways are higher than our ways, and He is so inconceivably bigger than us that our mere mortal minds just simply can't comprehend it, often just do not suffice after a while. It's quite crushing to find out that many revered and respected leaders actually have no answers to give you. This leaves the deep thinking or questioning Christian to begin digging for answers on their own. This often leads to receiving many warnings by people around you and by your church community of you heading into dangerous territory, and obviously the whole slippery slopes thing gets thrown in there. If this doesn't scare the parishioner into line, then heresy or heretic, these words often get inevitably thrown out as well, and kind of get smacked in the face with those very quickly into this journey. And many parishioners who survive the onslaught of scare tactics and name calling often find themselves pushed to the fringes of their community, leaving them to search elsewhere for clarity and meaning. They really don't have any choice because they just kind of tend to get pushed off to the side and kind of called rebels, or ones who do not, they're essentially not obedient or submissive people. And in their search for truth, many find that there is nowhere near any consensus of what true and real doctrine is anywhere in Christendom. I mean, they really can't agree on much of anything, and all of these things that you were told were absolutes and that were just a given as far as doctrine go, and that you can trace these all the way back to the origins of Christianity, is just simply not true. Information on the reality of the canonical origins, the canonical Bible, the source of certain doctrines, and the historical negative impact that religion has had on the world often begin to surface. And these religions, in generally, I mean, yeah, there were some horrible ones, but the Abrahamic religions have been absolutely horrible here, including Christianity. Obviously not just Christianity, but it's definitely included in that. Links between historical religious atrocities and modern atrocities can easily be drawn when you start going down this road. Things such as like neo-colonialism and Christianity are easily linked. The reality of things such as the Ugandan war against homosexuality and the brutality of it can easily be seen as having roots in Christianity, as well as the Central African Republic and their ethnic cleansing, essentially, of the Muslims there. The hate of Christianity and the war against the homosexuality in Uganda can easily be traced back to Christianity. American evangelicals were in Uganda, ready to claim Uganda as a Christian nation on the day of its governmental collapse, leading to the anti-gay legislation that consumes the nation today. They are actually passing these, and this is a major concern for a lot of people around the world. And there's a flat-out hatred of anyone outside of the sexually straight community. And this has direct links to Western Christianity, the Western Christian invasion, so to speak. There have been many genocides there throughout Africa, and the slaughtering of whole villages has happened. You can literally call these genocides and ethnic cleansings, and sometimes through these slaughterings that were happening of whole villages, they would have intermissions for prayer. It's kind of crazy. This is a crazy side note, but there are more Mennonites in Africa than in America. I had no idea about any of that, but it's true. Christianity has been used by almost every colonial power to justify the subjugation, oppression, and outright murder of its subjects. It remains a clear tool in neo-colonialism to this day, where militaries and missionaries are deployed almost hand in hand. It's a mutual beneficial affair between the two, and the United States, as a Christian nation, has roughly 750 foreign military bases in over 80 nations around the globe, with roughly 170,000 troops stationed outside the United States. You really have to start wondering who the real threat is here. We have always been taught that we were under, attack, and communism and all of these other countries are threatening the United States. When you actually start looking into it, the United States is actually taking a more aggressive stance than anybody else in the world. And you also get an understanding of why other nations feel so threatened by the United States. And you really begin to see how much Christianity is the religion of empires and how easily malleable it is with anything that will give it essentially power and money. You can bend Christianity into doing pretty much anything you want it to. Christianity has and still is a religion that is used to justify unimaginable evils against humanity. Instead of it being used as a tool for social equality, love, and peace, it's normally used to bludgeon people. What is going on in Africa with Christians administering an all-out genocide and hate campaign is not a one-off incident. It is actually the norm for almost every nation that is introduced to Christianity. This is Christianity simply running its course. This is the natural thing that Christianity does in nations. It's been proven true over and over again around the globe. It seems to be an inevitability, and Christianity has quite literally left piles of dead bodies in its wake everywhere that it goes. We could also obviously talk about all the internal scandals, like over here at home in America, internally, such as extramarital affairs, divorces, nefarious business practices. That's a big one, and that goes on locally here at home with local ministers. Molestations and flat-out rape that plague the church. And those last ones there are very big in the community that I live in too. Once again, these aren't isolated events. These things almost seem to be incubated by Christianity in its totalitarian, ultimate, and authoritarian leadership style. Imagine a person with already corrupt tendencies that is given such authority. It often goes horribly wrong. We know this when it comes to dictatorship, inside of communist countries. And obviously, this is also going to go wrong inside of religion, and it just really shows how powerless Christianity is to stop this inside of a person when you give them power. In short, many folks who leave Christianity do not do so because they want to leave necessarily. They leave because they ultimately get pushed out. When real questions arise inside the searcher to which church leadership has no answers, they tend to try to quiet and rein in the questioning person. When one finds real statistics and ugliness plaguing the church due to needing to search things out on one's own because there's no one there to help you out, you're told that mental reasoning and factual exploration are the enemy, and that Christianity is a faith that is to be followed blindly. And bringing in your reasoning is kind of what's wrong, and it's just going to lead you astray. The fact is, this is because Christianity and other Abrahamic religions are not able to be rationalized, and the leaders of these organizations know it. They do not wish to look into the issues with you either, because they are either aware of them and really want to bury their head in the sand, or because they are afraid of what they're going to find as well. Most are aware there's a very dark underbelly to religion, Christianity included, and a lot of them just simply don't want to see it. Many people begin their journey wholeheartedly searching for truth. They attempt to present new thought and ideas that they have found. They try to usher warnings and insight on how the church could correct its past errors and how to not commit them again. They want to be good Christians, genuinely. Continually and almost without fail, the church continues to not listen. The searching parishioners realize how intertwined with evil that the church is, and subsequently either walk or are pushed out the doors. It seems rather ridiculous, but the church then sits flabbergasted and wonders why so many choose to leave the faith and refuse to realize that the church itself, is the reason why people are leaving. The ones that leave almost always blatantly share what is happening while the church sticks its fingers in its ear and refuses to listen. It reminds me of Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber with his fingers in his ears making those weird noises just so he doesn't have to listen. That's essentially what the church and its leaders are doing. Many leave because the evil and darkness that plagues the church is simply so great that more light can be found outside the church doors. I mean, there's literally better things going on outside the church. Many are told that if they are hurt by the church, they are following man and not Christ. I've been told that one over and over again. The excuse of, well, everybody gets hurt by the church, but you have to overlook it essentially, because if you don't, then you're just following man, which is, fallible, and you're not actually truly following Christ. However, if I would do this with any other institution who just blatantly and continually always hurts, let's say its employees, I would essentially not be following my moral standards by supporting an organization like that, and the church is no exception. This is once again an area where the church is expecting to be exceptional in it when you would never treat any other organization the same way. What they fail to realize is that many leave so that they can follow Christ, because it's hard to follow Christ inside the church, because he is simply rarely found inside the Western church. You almost can't find him there anymore, because it's not even really about your own spiritual growth anymore. It's about developing theology to beat other people over the head because they're not acting the way that you think they should. That's pretty much what it comes down to. The people who leave ultimately find communities waiting to accept them with open arms outside of the church. The wayward Christian often finds the very groups that have been demonized so much by the church to be the most loving and accepting ones. These people know what the struggle is like. They know what it's like to be called such things as heretics, witches, demon-possessed, and just generally not filled with the Spirit. The language used against almost all of them has been extremely hateful and hurtful. Many find actual real healing inside of these non-Christian groups because for once they have people willing to accompany them to the deepest and darkest corners of their pain. These people are not afraid of darkness. They are well acquainted with it actually because they have went there and found out that the demons there have no real teeth the way that the church tries to tell you that it does, because the church is more scared of demons than almost anything else. They're the most scared group of people that I've ever seen in my life. These people outside the church will willingly accompany you to these dark places of your life. They're unafraid of what they might find there, and they will comfort you all the while, the whole time that you're there. They will sit with you gladly. They have been forced there themselves because the band-aid of prayer has been ripped off. And consequently, they have been forced to actually deal with their own shit instead of just trying to pray it away. They know that in the darkness can be found real beauty. The darkness is not a place to be avoided and to be prayed away and thinking that demons lurk inside the darkness. This is actually can be linked way back to almost like medieval days, where they used to think literally that demons and witches and so on were in dark places, like in the dark forest. And I think people believe the same thing about the darkness inside your soul, in the places where you hurt and in the places where you're broken. Those places are not filled with demons. They're places that you need to go to in order to heal. And there's a lot of beauty that can be found there. In seeing the caring and loving communities outside the church and seeing the evil that church stands for, once you see the evil that the church stands for and the loving communities that you find outside the church and experiences of real healing outside of the church, one begins to realize that the church at large is powerless, inept, and generally incapable of displaying the very power that it claims to have. In fact, it often embodies the very evil it claims to stand against. There's no need to wonder why people are leaving the church doors. All you really need to do is just start listening to the people who are leaving. If you invite them into a conversation and actually sit there and have these difficult conversations with them, they will tell you exactly why they're leaving. And if you will actually go into the difficult questions and actually flesh them out and explore and try to come up with good, meaningful answers to these, you may not actually lose the people that you're losing. And if the church would also turn itself around and not take place in almost all of the evils that are being committed around the world, then that would also make a difference as well. Even if the church isn't committing more atrocities than anybody else out there in the world, it's also not committing any less. And so what you have to realize by this is that the power that Christianity claims that it has, it really doesn't have. The power that is supposed to change somebody, that is really meaningful and that is supposed to change your life, it simply doesn't have, because you see these evils being committed inside the church just as much as you do anywhere else. So this, in short, this is a very short video that kind of describes what is going on right now. And I believe that the church can easily figure out what its own problem is, because people are trying to tell it all the time. It's just not willing to listen. Have a good one.